Are you hungry? I realize that I'm actually the last person standing between you and the lunch, so I'll try to keep it interesting and quick. Another question, not for a t-shirt. Do you like beer? Woohoo, yes. All right. Today I want to tell you a story for, let's say, a friend of mine. Let's call him George. And George loves data. Really, he loves data. Do you love data? I guess if you're here, you should love it, or at least work with it. Just as you, George loves beer. So, his, let's say, love for beer started back in the 80s, 1980s, so many years ago, and he really liked not only drinking beer, but tracking his beer. So where he went, did that beer taste good? What kind of alcohol percentage did it have? What kind of rating did he put on that beer? And do you know the first version of Excel that he could actually use to track all his data? That was on an Intel platform. Come on, some archaeology here. Nobody? Have you heard about Excel 2 back in 1987? Well, let's say that George used that one for the first time to track his data and collect everything everywhere he went. Do you know the limit of Excel 2? Come on, guess. How many rows? Come on. Not that many, 16,000. So imagine if George is drinking a beer a day and wants to track that beer a day, how many years he would need to, he would be able to collect his data in Excel. Not so many. And that was even with Excel 5, released back in '93. Still 16,000 rows. Yes, we had VBA, we had macros. I shouldn't say we had, because I don't really remember this. I was probably 8 or 9 years old back then, so definitely not been using Excel. Until 2007. Finally, George is happy because he now can track whatever he wants, whenever he wants. More than 65,000 rows. How many rows is more than 65,000? What's the limit? Somewhere around 1 million. Cool. So that was okay. Now George has a lot of data. He wants to report on it. He wants to see where he was. He wants to see how is his rating going around the world, where he tasted the greatest beer, so he can go back and drink that beer again. And that was first, let's say, yes, you had graphs in Excel. You've been seeing a lot of tricks and techniques, and you'll see a lot of tricks and techniques to show and visualize your data. But still, there was something missing. And the thing that was missing, well, it arrived a bit later than 2013. But Excel 2013 was the first version that had the Power add-ins. Power Pivot, Power Query, Power View, Power Map. Have you used them? Yeah, Bobby, of course. Yeah, I've seen you on presentations use them. Anyone else? Yes, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. All right. Why not? They're old already. Why haven't you used them? Any particular reason? Or you didn't have the scenario to use them? Well, I hope I can show you some of the scenarios today. And most importantly, I want to talk also about Power BI. Power BI, I suppose you've heard it. If you work with data, there's no chance, if you're in the Microsoft world, you haven't heard about Power BI. Yes? No? Yes, you've heard it. Great. So, the first version of Power BI that, oops, sorry. The first version of Power BI was actually back again in 2013, and it was called Power BI for Office 365. It was, let's say, the first version, and since then the two evolved. And not only it evolved, but it also picked up a huge speed. And right now there are more than 200,000 enterprises in the world that are using that product. Do you think they're replacing Excel for Power BI? No, they're not. Both tools are, let's say, they're complementary to each other. Nevertheless, I want to share another statistic with you. By 2020, there will be 4.4 zettabytes of data. So that's not gigabytes, that's not terabytes, that's not petabytes, that's even more. This data needs to be analyzed. Why would you have so much data if you don't analyze it or if you don't share it with people? Do you know how much time you need to grab someone's attention? You have 3 seconds. After those 3 seconds are gone, you lose people's attention. So you have just 3 seconds to get your message delivered. And what is the best way to do that? Well, it's our vision. Vision is accounting for around 70% of everything that we perceive with our senses. So, would you rather create a table with 10,000 lines and 20 columns to deliver a message saying that, well, our sales are going down? Or would you rather create a chart? Would you leave that chart static? Or would you like to have that chart dynamic, being able to cross-filter, dynamically figure out what happened without adding additional charts, without adding additional slicers, just doing it while you're on the screen in a matter of a couple of seconds? Well, that's the purpose of Power BI. One of the purposes. Then again, whatever you discover when you work with data, you want to share it. What's the sharing experience with Excel? Like 90% of the cases, what do you do if you want to share a graph or some kind of a table? Email it. Straight ahead email with the data inside, right? Or take a screenshot. Great. What can you do with a screenshot? Exactly. Can you kind of filter it? No. What happens if you send by chance, let's say not on purpose, you send an Excel to someone that then forwards it to someone else? This third person doesn't actually have the right to see that data. What do? Well, you're in big trouble. Because Excel files, yes, they're everywhere. Everybody's using Excel. But there's not much you can do in order to secure them. You can secure the file. But can you kind of create some kind of a strategy that allows just one person to see a certain set of the data and another person see another set of the data from the same file? No. Can you have the Sofia sales manager see the report for the sales, but just seeing the Sofia data without knowing the data for his colleague in Plovdiv? Well, that was a difficult thing to do, even with SQL Server and database platforms. Well, not only SQL Server. So here's where Power BI actually is really good at. It really excels. The Power BI we know today was released in July 2015. It allows you to combine data from cloud sources, on-premise data sources, use a gateway, refresh it automatically, and provide you the ability to get started in seconds, get done with analysis in a matter of seconds, even ask questions in a natural language. Like, instead of dragging and dropping columns in a pivot table, you just write a question and it gives you the data. And I'll show you that today. If you want to visualize it, there's not just the Excel application that you can visualize. You can visualize it in a web browser without having anything installed. You can visualize it in a mobile app, which is quite modern, I have to say. And if you want to implement row-level security, Power BI is really good at it. Yeah, the stats about 200,000 enterprises. Probably there are more. My information is, I don't know, probably a year old. When I was back in Microsoft, I had access to those statistics. Not anymore. So, this session is about comparing both those. So, should you choose Excel or should you choose Power BI? Have you ever been in this situation to choose between those two tools at this point? Yes? No? I guess no. Well, if we cover the area related to importing data, mashing up data, creating and working with humongous sets, not only 1 million rows. My last Power Pivot was with 200 million rows, and it was just less 1 gigabyte of a model. So that's the amount of rows you can work with. And the best thing is this exists both in Power BI and Excel. So at this point, they're sitting in the same level. How about if we want to extend programmatically? What if we want to put some buttons and do some interesting business logic within our files? Well, this is where Excel is much better with VBA. Do you use VBA? Yes, of course. Why? Sorry, yeah, you have to. Obviously, I mean, I hope it's not just because you want to do that. And if you want to migrate anything that you have written in VBA to Power BI, that's not possible yet. I have no idea if that's going to be possible at all. In any case, Excel is much better in extending programmatically, doing stuff, having business logic inside your Excel files. But that's about it. How about if I want custom visualization? Not to have just the 20 visuals that are available in Excel today. What do? Well, not much of a choice. What if I want to really work mobile? Yes, there is an Excel mobile, but have you actually worked with it? If you have a phone like mine, you have pretty good chance to read 3 columns with 20 rows, that's it. And then starts the fight with browsing up and down and trying to figure out exactly where to click in order to change a value. So that's why I just put a half marker there. Yes, there is an app, but that's kind of useful, but that's about it. Well, compared to Power BI Mobile, things are totally different. You even, if you're on iOS, the app even has a filter that can pick up your location, and if you have a report with a map, you'll be immediately you immediately have your report filtered to that particular geolocation, just with a click. Even the latest version, you can ask directly questions in voice, like, give me the average sales for this particular person, and then you get the report. Not needing to go to a computer, to a web browser, or whatever, or import any kind of data. Just have the model ready, ask the question, get the result. Security, in terms of security on data itself, row-level security. With Power BI, you can easily do that. And here's where I want to get back to George's story. George's parents, obviously, they really want to know what he's doing. And with his track record of drinking so many beers, with tracking back to the 80s of the last century, well, they might have some issues seeing all that data. Like, imagine he's drinking a couple of beers a day. Well, you know, parents are like that. They get worried, sometimes for nothing, sometimes, well, there's a reason. So what if George wants to show them a report where they just see part of the data? Yeah, why not? Not really a business scenario. whatsoever. But let's assume that George wants to do that. But at the same time, he doesn't want to create a separate report where he sees only his data, right? So he wants to create just a single report, and depending on the user, to visualize a certain set of data. Well, this is where Power BI is really good at, and I'll show you that. Before I move to the demo, what do you think the answer is here? Should you choose Excel or Power BI? If you have been in the Microsoft world for long enough, or in the Microsoft stack of technology for long enough, you will know that the definitive answer is it depends. It's never yes or no. This is exactly the case here. You should use them both, depending on your scenario. That's quite a busy graph, I know. Pretty much, here you have Excel, Power BI, desktop and online versions. And guess what? You can combine them any way you want. You can have an Excel model on-premise where you explore your data, let's say create some complex formulas, have a VBA script or something like that, and then at the same time hook up Power BI to read from that file and show you great graphs, give you analytics that you're not able to provide with just the simple graphs that you have in Excel. So, I still have, what's that? Oh, plenty of time to show you stuff. Now, you shouldn't have seen that yet. Anyways, so Excel, you've seen that. A lot of data. I have, let me actually expand a bit. I hope you see. So there you go. This data, by the way, I took the example of George, and I started tracking my beers back in 2015, so I don't have that much data as George. But I have the exact same scenario as George. I don't want my parents to see everything that I've been doing around the world drinking beer. And that's why I want to create a report where I do analyze the data that I already have in Excel. And I do want to create a report that I can easily share, let's say, with my parents, or whoever wants to see it, even my friends. Or, let's say, my favorite brew shop, so they can know what kind of beer they should offer me the next time I go there. Here's the data. Just something around 600 rows. Not very active on beers, I guess, for 3 years. I have a beer name, the brewery name, the beer type, the alcohol percentages. I have data like rating score, so I'm rating beers with a score between 0 and 5, although 0 is not really a score. I mean, that's not even a beer. But anyways, I also have the time and some additional data. And let's say that I want to do some kind of analysis. Here I create some Excel charts, and you can see 2015 quarters, I started quite high in the scores, so I obviously probably was kind of new to beers, and everything was 3+. Then in December, I decided that, well, I guess I'm not that lucky with beers. I need to be more precise in my scoring. And until now, in 2018, this is the average score that I've been having throughout history. Great. Here I have my top beers. I have a nice bar chart as well. Not bar chart. What was this called? Anyways. And then I also have the count of beers that I tracked, again, on months. Here, in 2015, I see kind of a spike, and I want to investigate it further. What can I do in Excel to investigate further? Any ideas? Eventually, I can get behind the data and create another graph. where I have the months or even the days. And what if I want to add a location? Well, that might be tricky, especially if you want to visualize it as a map. So I decide, because I've seen presentations by Microsoft, and I know that Power BI is absolutely great for this stuff, so I want to try it. How do I start with it? Having this Excel file with this model? Well, easily. Just go to Publish, choose a workspace. I'll explain about workspaces in a bit, and directly publish it. You have two options, upload or export. If you upload the file, you will get the same Excel sheet, but in Excel Online Services. So you will see exactly what you see here in the desktop version. But if you want to have the data set and create reports on top of it, then you need to export it. When you export it against a workspace, you will be able to create reports. So what do you need to get started with Power BI? You just need a free account. Everything that I will show you until the end of the demos is free. You don't have to do anything but just register. And even if you need to get a pro license afterwards, it's not that expensive at all compared to everything else that you have available today. So let's say that I export it. Here's how it looks like online. So the workspace is practically a folder where you can assign people to have access, either read or edit access. And you can create reports, workbooks, data sets, and dashboards. The data sets is the data, whatever you have defined with Power Query. So whatever you have there, it can be refreshed. It can hook up online to that source of data if it's online, for instance, let's say Azure SQL database, or it can be even synced offline, not offline. You can connect your online report using a gateway down to on-premises sources. So if you don't want to publish your data to cloud, well, use a gateway. So I have this data set, and I want to create these beautiful reports. So I can easily just go there, and in web, without even installing anything yet, I can immediately create a report. Let's say I want to see the country where I have the best beer. And I want to visualize it as a map. 3 clicks, that's it. See, a map. Cool, I didn't have to do anything at this point. So this is how you create reports. All right, but what if I want to use the desktop tool? So what if I want to define row level security and stuff like that? Well, you can use Power BI Desktop. Can you guess what? It's free. So what can you do there? Well, you can connect to the same data set that's in Power BI. So not separately, the Excel that you have just have here. Let me actually start over and show that to you. So you store your model in PowerBI.com. That's your only place and only source of truth. You don't have several different copies of an Excel file and wondering every time which contains the latest data or which has the most accurate data. You just have a single stop shop for all your data sets. And if you want to connect, just go to Power BI dataset. Come on. Yes. There's my workspace, and here are my data sets. So I just connect live. I'm not importing. I'm not moving any data whatsoever. I'm just creating visuals. And there you go. I have the fields. Do you know the best part? I can double click. Come on, I double clicked. Please work. All right, I guess I'll show you that later on. So I have this report. I have connected to my data. I can easily create several different reports, but because we don't have the time, I'll just show you a one that's ready. And what are the things I can do in Power BI? Well, take a look. Besides the quite interactive graphs, which I can click and drill down, see, now I can go down to months, and if I want, I can even go down to a particular date. So let's say in August I had a lot of beers. Let's see why. And see, I'm going online, extracting the data. Hopefully it will be quick enough. And there you go. I have all the different dates. And on top of that, I have a tooltip. I just hover my mouse and I can see what exactly I did. Everything is customizable. This is really easy to implement. This is called tooltips. This is one of the latest things in Power BI. What else? Let's say that I again have my top 5 beers. And let's say that, well, Stout, Irish Dry, is something that I scored with 5, which is kind of interesting. I'm really curious when exactly did I have that and what sits behind. Well, take a look. I just clicked and it immediately filtered. Cross-filtering is the next really cool feature around Power BI. And remember, your data is still coming from Excel, sitting in your Power BI account. You can implement slicers easily. So obviously, I had a lot of beers in Greece in 2015. Quite curious on what exactly happened there, and I can see, ooh, ouch. I scored in September in Greece a beer that's 0.8. I must have not been very happy, I guess. Out of 5, remember, and so on and so on. And I create this report in Power BI Desktop, and I want to share it. Publish. That's it, a single button. The moment you publish it, it appears immediately in your reports here. So, let's take a look. Couple of more minutes, I promise. No, I wanted to show the other one. Yeah, there it is. And now I can see it in web. And I can publish it to web. Or I can embed it in SharePoint Online. Or even if I want, I can give access for someone to download the copy of that report and view that for themselves. What else can I do? Let me show you, because this is kind of a cool. So this is another report, again on the same data. This time I have a spike here in December and a spike here in December and kind of a drop in January. So I really want to know what happened there. So just right-click, analyze, explain the decrease, and automatically I have analytics running for me saying what might have been the reason. And if I scroll down, well, obviously, in December, so the difference is 60% in decrease of count of beers that I've been using in December 2017 compared to January 2018. And one of the reasons is probably because I went to Norway. Yes, the beer there is kind of expensive, you know. Have you been to Norway? Yeah. Have you drunk beer there? Yeah. So it's even more expensive than a shot of whiskey. Crazy, but that's the fact. It's not like in Czech Republic where the beer is cheaper than the water. You know, that's a fact. And I've been a lot of times in Czech Republic. And if you play with that data, say you didn't have to do any report. Let's say that I like this this analytics, and I want to show it as an area map. And I like this visual. I want to send a message with that visual to, let's say, whoever analyzes that data. Well, I can easily pin it. And I have it as a visual here in my report. Tooltips, drill down, AI analysis, extremely popular features one of the differentiators around Power BI. Remember, this is when you analyze your data. You still have to handle that data, being that in Excel, databases, or whatever. You still have to explore your data. Power BI is not good at it. Power BI is not good on showing tables with 20 columns and, I don't know, 100 rows or 10,000 rows. Even if you have conditional formatting or spark lines or stuff like that. Yes, 0 minutes, all right. I'm done. Final one. This is the report that I'm seeing. I had 438 beers around the world, but remember that I wanted to show my parents something else. So they're seeing absolutely the same report, but, so here I have an account called parents, of course, and because I created an app for them so they don't have to search, browse, and do anything, but just open a browser. Go there, get it now, and whenever they just open it, take a look. This is the same report, but this time, oh, Power BI knows that these are my parents. It will implement the filters that I asked him to implement. Then they're implemented with, can you guess what language? DAX, yes. So if you need to implement row-level security, you need to learn DAX. If you want to work with Power Query and generally mashup data in Excel and Power BI, you need to learn M. That's a fact. You cannot escape from that. So if you want to combine 10 different files, Power Query is your friend. If you want to combine 10 different sheets, 20, 10,000, Power Query is your friend. With that, let me just say thank you. I'm sorry that I'm sorry that it took me a little longer than the originally planned, but see, when you get hooked with the data, there's no stopping. So you have no idea how much time I've been spending around this data trying to find interesting things. So, thanks again, and I guess questions?
Thanks, Vanka. One question before we're a little bit late. So you can...
No questions? Or? Yeah.
People are hungry, Vanka.
People are hungry, okay. Have a great lunch, everybody.